Hello. The Ducks might be number 2 in football, but the Beavers are number 1 when it comes to startup accelerators around here. Our friends at OEN, the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, had their Angel Oregon Tech event where their angels were in the audience. The tech companies were on the stage. Somebody walked away with a very big check, $155,000. I'll tell you more about that. We got ranked by a commercial real estate organization. By we, I mean Portland. And it's not so great, but we can only go up from here. And then finally, I sat down with the folks at Economy who are working on analyzing the midway point of the Oregon 10-year innovation plan, and I'll share what I shared with them so that you have the information that I imparted to them about what I think is going on in Oregon. Then, of course, if you stick around long enough, if you can put up with me through all this news, I will, devolve into the secrets section where I will share stuff that's happening with me, probably stuff I shouldn't say on camera, but I will. And then, of course, it kind of goes without being said, but just in case, if you are in the middle of a story and you're like, I would rather hear about another story, I will cut this up into chapters so that you can jump to the story that's most important to you. Okay, some quick hits. There were a number of good YouTube videos that came out this week. And if you're watching this on the YouTube, it might be easy to jump to some of those when you're done with this. Darius Monsup, who is a serial founder, one of my original inspirations to start doing this blog and these kind of like news reports were Darius's work way back in the day on a company called Color Lovers that wound up going through YC. He took a company called Brave Care through YC, and now he has relocated to Australia, but he kind of gives his whole story about his entrepreneurial journey to an Australian podcast, and it's well worth the listen. Lots of good shout outs to Portland, lots of good insights on what it's like being a founder, and even more importantly, what it's like being a serial founder. So if you're curious about that, please check out Darius on the podcast. Also, I got the chance to sit down with Angel Medina for one of our startup stories conversations. If you don't know Angel, he has a number of coffee shops. He's Republica, the award-winning restaurant, and he also has a project called Todos Media, which is really, I kind of look at it as the intersection between Telemundo or Univision and the Food Network, but with much, much higher production value. So we talk a little bit about being a startup and how he's built things and how he finds his motivation and passion for the work that he does. Panthalassa, the most talked about startup in Oregon history, perhaps. The co-founder of Panthalassa had a great conversation. And since that's one of the hottest startups in the area these days, well worth your time to hear what they're building at Panthalassa if you're not familiar with that. And then finally on the quick hits, everyone kind of knows Portlandia and how it, it made fun of Portland, but in a very funny way and somewhat honest but funny way. Well, there was another series called Hassan Hates Portland that was from the perspective of a black guy living in Portland and all the Portland weirdness that he had to experience. Well, that web series is now being made into a feature-length film with a whole different plotline. I mean, Hassan still hates Portland, but the interesting part about it is they're trying to do a Kickstarter campaign to pay for part of the film. And if you contribute at a very high level on the Kickstarter, you could even be an extra in the film. So I highly encourage you to support this project in any way that you can, if you're able, with putting some money into the Kickstarter. But if you're really interested, if you're trying to break in, if you want that Hollywood career, this could be your opportunity as an extra, especially if you never got to be an extra on Portlandia. So check out the Hassan Hates Portland Kickstarter. So up at the top, I mentioned Oregon State being number one. That is in regards to incubators and accelerators around the region. So the only Oregon incubator or accelerator that was named to Time's list of best incubators and accelerators this year was the Oregon State Advantage Accelerator, which is just really compelling. I mean, we know it's a good program. It's right here. We get to experience some of the amazing companies that have come out of the program, whether they've been recently acquired or whether they're like Agility and one of the hottest robotic companies in the world. Oregon State has just been doing really, really great work. They are continuing to improve upon their programming, especially with the whole Jensen Huang and his wife being alums and investing money in the campus. And so there's just a lot of really interesting things going at Oregon State. The FAST grant, remember I was talking about that a while ago with the semiconductor stuff? Like Oregon State's part of that project too. So this is a super interesting time for Oregon State in terms of really incubating and accelerating the technology in our state in really compelling ways, especially when it comes to things like hardware and AI and robotics and all the things that seem to be hot right now. They're all converging, and Oregon State seems to be at the center of it. So I was not surprised by Time recognizing them as one of the best programs, but I think other people might be. So just be aware that the 23rd best incubator and accelerator in the United States is right here in Oregon, the OSU Advantage Accelerator. Speaking of accelerators, our friends out in Pendleton at the Oregon UAS Accelerator have just named a new cohort. There's 17 companies in the cohort. They're just getting started, and so I wanted to give you the names of the folks they selected this time around. It's folks from all over the globe, a few from Oregon, but also some from South Korea. So I will take you through each of the companies and where they're from. If you want to read more about what they do, I've got them all linked up in a blog post that you can read and click through and go visit their sites and learn more. But just so you have the names, Advisor Lauren out of Seoul, South Korea, Era USA out of Portland, Atlas AI out of Tigard, Bantam Aero out of Bingen. In Bingen, you may recognize as the home of In Situ, which just got reacquired after Boeing had acquired them 20 years ago. A new company called Archer just acquired In Situ and a number of other drone companies. Dadium Corp out of Seoul, South Korea, but they have a U.S. presence. Emprian Defense out of Bend, Encore Industries out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Hindsight VIP out of Boardman, Needtail out of Portland, Needtail. Needletail out of Portland, New Code out of Seoul, Perimeter AI Group out of Haymarket, Virginia, Relia Systems out of Portland, Supporty out of, I'm going to mispronounce this, but Goyangsi, South Korea, Tactical Laser Defense Systems out of Seal Rock, Oregon, Tav Drones out of Austin, Texas, TKG Security out of Battleground, Washington, and Vexel Systems out of Corvallis. So congratulations to each of those companies for getting selected. As always, these are drone companies, counter-drone measures, tangentially associated companies to the drone industry, and they all get access to the mentorship and the amazing facility out in Pendleton, which is one of the premier drone flight facilities in the world, right here in our backyard. And this accelerator program is designed to give people around the world access to that amazing facility in Pendleton, Oregon. Oregon UAS Accelerator does a great job of supporting startups from around the world. Oregon Entrepreneurs Network does a great job of supporting startups here in our own backyard. They recently had their OEN Angel Oregon Tech competition for this year, kind of the big reveal. Like, it's a long program and kind of, mentorship program that they go through, both for the angels who are investing as well as the startups who are going through the program. And then the culmination is they kind of hold this celebration to bring everybody together and kind of show off the companies that they worked with and then award a big check. And the company that walked away with the big check this year, and we talk about them time and time again here on the show, it was Yak. And if you're not familiar with Yak, they are building a solution, obviously an AI solution, designed to help accountants with audits and kind of taking away that like really stressful, like minutia of work that audits take, and helping accountants do a much better job with far less stress. So congratulations to Yak. They walked away with a $155,000 check. And then Harmony also got some, I'm not remembering how much they got, but a second company also got a smaller check from the Angel Group. And as always, like, these angels are doing the work of getting early stage capital to companies that desperately need it. Really compelling solutions. So thank you to all the people who participate, who shell out their hard-earned money to support startups in our region. And thank you to OEN for providing a program that enables those people to learn how to invest, and the startups that need the capital, getting that capital from those angels. It's really compelling. We don't have a lot of early stage activity around here as of late. And so seeing new angels be minted and providing capital to startups is incredibly important to our entire community. So thank you to everyone involved, and congratulations again to Yak. Okay, we've kind of done with the happy stuff. Now it's the more not so happy stuff. There's a report that came out today from CBRE called the Scoring Tech Talent 2026 report. Portland appears on it. That's a good thing. Like, out of the top 50 metropolitan areas in the US and Canada that this report analyzed, Portland is on that list. The challenge is we're more than halfway down. We're at number 34. So that's not great, but at least we're in the mix. At least we have the potential of doing better. I would have to assume that prior to the pandemic, we would have been much, much higher on that list, but this is where we are. So in terms of the numbers that gave us that 34th ranking, we're about down about 3,000 jobs in tech. But there are some bright spots. We're in the top 10 in terms of tech talent total. So as I said, we've got about 64,000 people, which put us around number 8 in terms of that ranking. Obviously, the Bay Area is number 1, but we're in the top 10 on that one, 8 or 9. And then we also are one of the best in terms of average annual salaries. So that's a great thing. Obviously, the Bay Area is number 1. Seattle's number 2. But we are, about midway down, maybe 6 or 7. Again, 34th, not great. I would like to see us in the top 20. I believe we could get back up there, but it's going to take some work. And if you're wondering what kind of work, that brings us to our last story, which I've teased a couple times, and I begged for you to respond to a survey about this same topic, but I didn't want to share what I had provided because I didn't really want to jaundice your view. So what I did this week was take the opportunity to just kind of reveal all the things I talked to the folks about the Oregon 10-year innovation plan that we're now 5 years through, and what I thought was working and maybe wasn't working. And I should probably just dedicate a whole video to this. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole on every single thing I said or how I said it, but I thought I would kind of give you the high points about things that I talked about in terms of innovation in Oregon and funding and all those kind of things. I think it's really also important to say that this plan was written and released in the middle of the pandemic, when we had no idea what a post-pandemic world was going to look like. So they were flying the plane a little bit blindfolded and building it as they were going, and post-pandemic is a very, very different world. So I wanted to give that allowance, give that caveat that they did the best that they could with the information they had, but the world in which we now live in is incredibly different from the world prior to the pandemic. Okay. So here's kind of what I said. I said, we as a state have been succeeding despite our best efforts to fail. We've been lucky, not good. Oregon is like an athlete or musician who has been making it on inherent talent alone, not understanding education or continued practice. I said, Portland is the state's outlier, but it's also an afterthought and doesn't receive the level of support it should from the state. I use these analogies all the time. I've just never kind of written them down. In my 30 years in Portland, I've consistently watched the state of Oregon continually struggle to bring its Fs up to Ds and potentially Cs, rather than doubling down on its Bs and making them A pluses. So in the parlance of the U.S. educational system, we don't have a good grade point average, and we would have a much better average if we would focus on the things we're good at. So that was the thing. The big miss, consumer products. We have more consumer products, talent, knowledge, and wisdom per square foot in this state than anywhere else on earth. As my co-founder at Built Oregon always liked to say, Oregon is the Silicon Valley of consumer products. So the fact that there wasn't a huge focus on consumer products and what that could do for our region, huge miss, just a huge miss. What even is an Oregon company anymore? Like, everybody's remote. We don't have as many headquarters. And yet judging headquarters is a metric that economic development people and economists like to track. But the point I'm trying to make is, it doesn't matter where people are working. If they're living here, they're paying taxes here. We're receiving money to work with from the people who live here, regardless of where their company is. So I don't even know what an Oregon company is anymore. I don't know that headquarters matter that much anymore, but it's, a tried and true metric that people keep coming back to which I say, we have more Intel employees here than anywhere else on Earth, and Intel is headquartered in California. So I won't beat that to death, but it's just I feel like that's an issue that we need to find new metrics to track those kind of things. We have a real problem culturally about being super anecdotal and not actually quantitative about things that we talk about. So we'll say, no, there's a lot of those, or like, we're the de facto hub of brew pubs or footwear or whatever. And then when you take that to the next question, which is, well, how many of them are there? And you're just like, I don't know, a lot. So one of the state's problems is we need to do a better job of counting, quantitatively analyzing the things that are going on in the state. I wanted to get that in there. Qualified small business stock, complete mess. And I will link up a prior video that I did about qualified small business stock. But I think this might be an opportunity. Like, it could be a way, high level, they placed a tax on qualified small business stock that did not exist before. And if you don't know, in the startup world, founders and early stage investors are often taking a huge financial risk, and qualified business stock is kind of a hedge of kind of recouping some of that financial risk should the company be successful. So putting a tax on it is hurting early stage founders and early stage investors in the state. If somebody from outside the state invests and gets qualified small business stock, they're not impacted by it. So it's a mess, and it needs to be straightened out. But what I've offered, and I've said this before, is like, maybe since the tax is already on the books, maybe we can use that as a lever. Maybe we can say, look, instead of paying this 10% tax, if you dedicate 2% of the, wealth generated from your qualified small business stock to an early stage fund or directly into an early stage startup, maybe we just forgive the tax altogether. Maybe that's the tax break. And maybe that helps to start solving that problem of moving capital through the system. Because my big argument is Oregon does not have a money problem. It has a liquidity problem. We have plenty of capital around here. It's just all locked up in ways that it's inaccessible. So how do we make that capital more accessible? How do we keep it flowing through the system? I think there's an opportunity we may have stubbed our toe on QSBS, but I think there's a path forward that could be really intriguing. I talk about Oregon being extremely risk averse, so that plays into that whole thing. I kind of go off a lot on QSBS, but I think you wanted me to, so I did. I told them a whole bunch of things. The innovation hubs, probably one of the more successful efforts that came out of the Oregon 10-year innovation plan, but they need to focus on wayfinding. And the state has also taxed them with delivering mentorship. And I think that would be fine in the future. But for right now, again, back to the quantitative thing, they need to figure out who's doing what and help founders figure out who they need to be talking to, what services are being offered, and how founders can get the assistance they need more quickly without having to onesie, twosie, figure out their own way through the ecosystem. And the hubs should be that wayfinder. They should also be a network. So ideally, we should be able to go to the Metro Region Innovation Hub, the hub of innovation for the Portland Metro region. We should be able to go there and they should be able to say, hey, based on what you're doing, we've got some folks here, but you know who else you should talk to? This person in Bend, or this person in Medford, or this person in Pendleton. It should be networked to help founders get the help that they need. So again, something near and dear to my heart. So I spent a lot of time on that. Going through some more stuff, wayfinding. Risk-tolerant capital is failing on both sides of the marketplace. So it's not only a problem with founders having a hard time finding risk-tolerant capital, it's a problem that we don't have a bunch of new funds. We've not had a cohort of new funds in 17 years. So we need some new people in the game. We need some new funds playing here, be they local or otherwise. We just need more capital and capital distributed to startups that are building venture scale companies. So that's a whole thing. Go through that obviously a bunch. And then Business Oregon, the one who, we've heard complaints about. The Prosperity Council said, basically tear it down and rebuild it as a different entity. Again, kind of another caveat I just wanted to share from an objective standpoint. A lot of the issue with Business Oregon is it's like a Christmas tree. Any island of misfit toys ornament that doesn't have somewhere to live gets hung on to Business Oregon. And so their purview keeps increasing. They have more to manage. They have more dollars to manage and spend. And it's just untenable. So I don't blame the people at Business Oregon. I think, there are departments and individuals who are doing great work, but the entire organization suffers from being so spread thin across, hundreds, if not thousands of efforts and programs. So I felt it was fair to share that as well. So the TLDR, they asked me for my priorities. I said, number one, reassess the whole food and beverage apparel strategy. Number two, focus on risk-tolerant capital, which also includes qualified small business stock. And three, create an actual organization charged with economic development as it's meant to be done for the state of Oregon. So that's kind of where we left it on that. And I hope you got your information in on the survey, and I will let you know when we get the report from Techonomy about what everybody said about Oregon 10-year innovation plan. And, I'll have some more to say once I read that report. Okay. Wow. Talk about that started on such a high note and just devolved from there. Welcome to Secrets. If you've never watched the show before, welcome. The Secrets is the part where I basically drop out of character and just devolve into me. And I kind of tell you about what's going on with me or stuff that I can't quite reveal yet. That's why it's Secrets, because not everybody needs to know this, just you, because you stuck around, you hung out. I am comfortable. We have developed a rapport. I'm comfortable sharing secrets with you. So let me see what I took for notes. I'm going to start doing more of Patreon again. I had already been going that direction, and then Patreon released 30 new features. And I was like, maybe worth my while to spend some more time with Patreon. I was originally motivated because we do so much in the digital world. I wanted to start sending kind of physical things to my patrons, like stickers or buttons or a handwritten note or, various accoutrements from the world of Silicon Florist. So I was already going down that road. Was going to, for my patrons, start sending them things if I had their address. And there's a free level on Patreon too. It's just so even if you don't want to support the work I do financially, I would love to have you on the Patreon just to see the work I do under a different lens and a different frame. So please consider joining that Patreon. Of course, these are all the patrons who have contributed and continue to contribute. Thank you so much for your support. I don't think you understand how much it means to me that you not only trust and appreciate the work I do, but that you place your hard-earned dollars into the work I do on a monthly basis. So thank you so much for supporting this activity, and I hope I get to send you some stuff. And speaking of supporting activity, our friends at Portland Seed Fund, unprompted, I did not even say anything about this. They reached out to me and they're like, hey, we want to sponsor the Silicon Florist 20th birthday thing. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, please. So thank you to Portland Seed Fund for doing that again, totally unprompted. I was really blown away, and will continue, obviously, to hype Portland Seed Fund as I have for years and years. But that was really sweet of them to reach out and to offer to sponsor. So, Angela, Steve, Shashi, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that gesture. So thank you. And look forward to scheming with you on something to do for the 20th. Oh, also speaking of the 20th, if you've been around the tech community here for a while, you may have come across the 4K for Charity Fun Run. I reached out to the field day folks, to Eli, and I was like, hey, would you be willing to do a 4K for Charity Fun Run on the Silicon Florist birthday day, August 7th, 2027? And he was like, yeah, sure. So can I schedule that too? I don't run. So it's ironic that I'm pushing that concept, but thank you to Eli for being willing to entertain that. And I will keep you posted if that comes together. I heard from the Metro Region Innovation Hub, the hub of innovation for the entire Portland Metro region, heard from them that they've hired a new director. So I can't reveal that news yet, but you'll know about that soon. I believe the announcement date is September 1st. So stay tuned, and I will tell you about that as soon as that's available. Caught up with my buddy Saul Colt, who is my birthday buddy. We have the exact same birthday. He's an amazing marketer, just incredible, portfolio of work and super creative. He wrote a great book that I often recommend to people. So I'll make sure and link that up so that you can grab a copy of it. I can't remember the exact title, but it's a wombat is the acronym he uses. And if you want to know what that means, then you buy the book. Or he also did an audiobook, but he did it as a podcast. So it was an audiobook, but it had guests on it. So as Saul would with his like creative concepts. So trying to get him back out here to come visit us at some point. Caught up with a bunch of founders, some working on some really compelling, interesting ideas, and some working on ideas that I'm not so sure are interesting and compelling, but they're founders. I will support founders. It's fine. Did another interview, like, the startup stories interviews, trying to get those out. And of course, caught up with a couple of VCs and other folks in the community. And then got to grab some time with Denise McCarty from Autodesk, just to catch up, see how they're doing and what's going on in her world. She's doing a lot with the AI. You may have heard of the AI. She's working on a lot of that stuff at Autodesk. Okay, well, I hope you're doing well. It's, we're kind of into that back to school, back to focusing on work kind of thing, back to investors cutting checks like they did for Yak. And they will continue to do until at least Halloween, hopefully maybe Thanksgiving or ideally New Year. But hope you're hanging in there until we get the chance to chat again. Please keep up the good work.